get into the roster here before we move on. But hold a couple of the thoughts that you have. So thanks much on that.
Roy, over to you, WB2EOD. Roy, you were in South Jersey, I think, correct?
That is correct. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good evening, everybody. This is Roy, WB2EOD. Bob Tilly, I remember you. I don't know why, but I remember you apart from others. Having said that, I was introduced to the Fair Lawn Radio Club in late 1967, some 50 years ago, and I took my novice test there, late 67, and it was Frank Leonard who administered my novice exam. At that time, you signed the call WB2 Roger Lima Oscar. And I was licensed at the River Road facility. There was another fellow who was probably not involved here, and he lived a few doors down from me. I lived in Glen Rock, right on the line from Fair Lawn. There was a fellow there, Phil Crowitz. I don't know if anybody remembers Phil Crowitz, but he and I got our licenses at the same day. We were running down Garvey Place toward each other. I was WN2EOD, and he was WN2EOE. For the longest time, the only people we could work were each other. Now, we sort of were 5 houses apart from each other, people. There was another guy in the neighborhood, Tim Gorey, WN2CLU. Don't know if he's still in radio. And there was a ham who lived not far from there. Does anybody recall a man named Herb Dell? Does that ring a bell with anybody?
No.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Having said that, my fondest memories of art was the art studio. Because I was a 16-year-old boy, and all of us were peeping over the partition. I think you might know what was going on there, if anybody has any doubts. At any rate, I still do have a steel base for the key that Frank made for me. I still have that heavy steel base. Can't even, it served very well. Remember Frank's code test or adjacent calls. Now, I moved from the area in 1968 in July. I moved down to the South Jersey area. I was like 16, 17 years old. I kept up in ham radio. I pretty much lost contact with you people. I was a tech for like 10 years. I'll be honest, CW is not my strong suit, and until they came up with the comprehension tests, I failed General Code 3 times. Ultimately, I got it out of the Philadelphia office. I upgraded the rest of the way. But like I said, I lost track of you people until about a year ago when Carl, I guess, showed up at Ham Radio Outlet Newcastle, where I work 3 days a week. I saw Fair Lawn on his customer record, and I asked him about the Fair Lawn. Hey, I'm the president. So at that point, we struck up a conversation, and I think last year I attended a business meeting. So, like I said, most of whom I know are not there anymore. I remember a guy named. I remember the big. What's his name? Tom. I remember Tom Gilbert, and I understand he's no longer with us. And I don't remember too many others. But Bob, I remember you, and I don't know why, but that's about it. My wife and I were down there last July because we were up there last July because we had something else doing, and I said, let's do a business meeting. And it was interesting to see that you have your own, virtually have your own real estate there. And,
Roy, one or two final comments here so I can move on.
I'm sorry?
One or two final comments so I can move on. I may have a couple other check.
All right. When we were at the meeting, my wife, also a ham, she's KC2THQ. She, after we left, she said, other than the call signs, the meeting is remarkably similar to our own at the South Jersey Radio Association. I won't take up any of your time. This is WB2EOD.
Thanks much. Okay, we'll come back. So, yeah, just checking here. Are there any other check-ins for the Fair Lawn Amateur Radio Club Memory Club men? Come now.
Want me to put my 2 cents in?
No.
Okay, nothing heard. Okay, what I do want to do, just to go back quickly, okay, just in this first round of history, I want to go back just to Neil for a second. Because Neil, you brought up the fact of the Fair Lawn Radio Club. Anything else that we need to know about the club? Or, you know, I mean, because it's a club that I don't think that any of us know about. Going back to the 40s.
Did anybody? Would anybody know the name Roger Carlton?
Yes.
You did.
Who?
Roger Carlton, who lived in Radburn, was my elder or mentor, you might say, and this is during the war in the Boys Club. I'll pass these photos along here so that people can see them. In those days, we met in the 40s, and I'll have my wife Jane correct me on the dates because I'm not much on remembering dates.
This meeting is taking
And we met
meeting there at the club.
I know.
The telephone.
Happened during the war. There was a fuel shortage, and so when we couldn't meet in the Boys Club because we met in the attic there, the 3rd floor, there wasn't enough heat in the winter. Roger Carlton asked if he could meet in our home on Ellis Avenue. And my father, very kindly, offered the basement on Thursday evening for the radio club to meet. And here's the members of the radio club, very youthful Neil D. Pavine. And Roger Carlton.
This goes back to prior to the war, correct?
During the war.
During the war.
Yeah. And then, of course, when the war broke out, we couldn't go on the air. We didn't allow RF emission, so we went on carrier current. I don't know if it worked on carrier current. And that was transmitting RF through wires, either telephone wires or power line wires. And I worked Hackensack, which was my DX. And, well, in the club in those years, we had an hour of code, and then the rest of the evening was theory. Now, my strong sport was theory, by no means code. I worked all of the incredible speed of 10 words per minute, and I got stuck there and never made the general class exam. So as time went on, I went into the Navy, served my duty there, then to college, got out of college, went into an engineering profession. I worked for Allen-B Dumont Laboratories, and later on for a bunch of other companies in the neighborhood, staying in Fair Lawn all the while. And then I got into another hobby, which is sailboating, and I decided that it would be a great idea to have a ham rig before the sailboat, and I had this hurdle to overcome of passing the code test. So on my business trips, I take a order along with me and practice code in the hotels at night, and I eventually made my 13 words a minute and my general license. And the advanced license was a snap for me because I knew the theory, and there was still that last hurdle, which is the extra class. And would you believe it? I finally did pass the 20 words a minute exam and got my extra.
There you go.
And boy, was that ever a hard piece of work. But I owe my mentor, Carlton, an enormous amount of thanks, because he was not only my Elmer, but my mentor. He saw to it that I went to college and got a proper education. But that was in the early days of the then called Fair Lawn Radio Club. And I'm sure not too many of you knew about this, but I want to thank you very much for inviting me here to tell my little story.
Great stuff. So, just for the guys on the phone, there are about, I'm guessing about maybe 10 pictures that are circulating of sort of the old days. And I also want to recognize Fred, W2AAB, who actually brought in some equipment tonight, and Barry, W2VR, looking across here, W2X, who actually brought in some gear that was contemporary with the station back in the 60s, right? Early 60s. So this is great. Okay, the first round. What I want to do with this is, in person first, and then I'll connect the guys in on by phone. I'm looking for, say, maybe 5 really good stories about characters or people you remember from this club. I know we can do 20 minutes on each, okay, but I'd like to probably do like 2 or 3 if we can, because that's about 15 minutes of time. Okay, so I'm looking for 5 to say 7 good ones. Okay, so who wants to go first?
Well,
Go ahead.
I think the consensus between us would be Tony Gizak.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Is that a good topic for?
Gene, you've got 3 minutes. Okay, so go ahead.
Well, Tony Gizak, and if you want, he's the tall gentleman with the glasses here.
Mm-hmm.
This was field day, I believe either 62 or 63. And that was...
Yeah, need the microphone. Yeah, sorry.
Sorry. This was field day, I believe, 1963. We were up on Skyline Drive. And Tony was the longest member of the club that never had a license. But he knew how to operate. He helped everybody. He did generators. He did cooking. He did packing and unpacking, and all around did everything for the club. But he would always say, "I'm studying for it. I'm studying for it." But as long as I was a member, when I joined, that was from 62 to like 67 and 68. When I left, he had never gotten a license.
Call me?
Perfect. Thank you, Gene. Who else has stories?
Yeah. Yeah, the numbers? Yeah, I'm in there.
A lot of you remember Carl Koenig. Carl was always around.
Colonel Koenig.
No, that's Colonel Klink. Everybody knows.
Well, the number I have here is 712-432-3900.
You're in there.
3900.
Carl Koenig.
And then it's 234787 hash and pound sign.
10 meters in his car, a dynamotor radio,
Okay.
red light,
Okay.
top of the roof,
Bye.
and was interested in ham radio all his life. Well, I gave him his novice, and we got him his technician class license. I gave Lowell over your van, WA2JCV was his call. He passed his call with us. The Fair Lawn Radio Club, the ETA. And, oh my gosh. Carl had a lady that worked with him. She wanted to get her license too. She survived him. And Colonel Koenig lost his job, but she kept working for the Bergen County Civil Defense until she passed away. I gave you a whole bunch of extra notes, but Carl Koenig was one of the ones responsible for Fair Lawn Civil Defense. And everything he did and everything he pushed, thank God for the Bergen County FM Association. We are there because And I gave you some other notes. Oh, here's
Bought a minute off of somebody else. Finish up, okay.
very, very quickly. He lived on Ellis Avenue. I wrote his call down. Al Livingstone.
I remember him. I think his call was QPN.
You'll see Livingston Lodge, Mascomba Lake. I stayed there for a week. He also was Livingston Laboratories on Ellis Avenue, and that's where all the hams in the area congregated in his basement. And he was W2QPN, and don't ask me how I remember this stuff. He became the WLA. I can't remember what I did yesterday, but I remember this.
He was an old man even then.
Yeah, who is this? Who is that? Is that Skip or Al?
No, this is Roy again.
Roy, go ahead. Yeah, Roy, you've got 2 minutes, Roy. Anything you want to add?
I do remember QPN, Al Livingston. Visited him a lot when I was at the club. I do remember him. He had all kinds of stuff in his basement, and I just tried to. Now I remember who we're talking about. Livingston Lodge. Yeah. That's it.
Hey,
I don't have much else, people. I'm probably going to listen. I'm probably going to listen out here.
Okay. Thanks. Okay. Skip, Hal, anything in terms of, like characters of people you remember?
Yeah, tell me the question again, because I actually missed that question a little bit.
Okay, yeah, I mean, we're just sort of talking about here, any particular characters. There's always characters in the club, right?
Yeah.
Or people that you remember. Anybody that sort of comes back to you that you think about, okay, that perhaps the club should know about just in terms of documenting its history?
I'm not sure there's anybody. I mean, there's several people that stand out in my mind, and I guess we're all characters a little bit. I mean, Van sticks out in my mind because I met Van. Van was at the Grand Union or the A&P up on River Road where you worked?
Grand Union.
Yeah. My mother came home one day and said, I met this kid up in the Grand Union. You really need to meet him. He's a ham radio operator. And I was 12 at the time, and Van was 18. And that's kind of how I got started. I wound up heading up to his house on, is it 12th Street?
12th Street.
Yep. And thought he had the most amazing basement in the whole world. And, I got the bug bit at that point. Somehow but I don't think, Van, you were in what I was calling the Fair Lawn Radio Club at that point, which would be around 1960. Anyway, somehow I found myself over to the Ackerman estate. And, of course, the two people that always made an impression on me was Carl Van Riper and Frank Leonard. I mean, they were kind of the spark plugs. There was a fellow named, last name of Bacon, B-A-C-O-N. I forget his first name.
Oral.
Yeah, I think he had a PhD. He was a very technical guy. And I remember we were up in the cupola up on that building, and we had an SCR 522 on 2 meters. And every time I'd get on the air, he'd kind of look at me and say, "Kid, you don't want to be on the air. Come on, I'll go teach you something." And we'd go over to a blackboard. He used to think spending time on the air was kind of a waste of time. We really ought to be studying electrical engineering. And probably at that point in my life, that was the right answer. So I remember him quite well. And Frank was always a delight to be around. I remember a lot of code practice sessions with him. And he had a lot of little gimmicky sayings to learn the code. L was dotted it, and after a while he would say, "The hell with it, the hell with it." And letter by letter, you'd learn alternate expressions for code letters. Actually, it's still stuck in my head today. So, I mean, I can remember him in 1961 saying, "The hell with it" for L. So I got a lot out of that guy. He was great. I guess that's about it for me.
Bob, you had somebody just listening here, so maybe get back and pass it over to Bob.
Yeah, we're going on to what Pete had to say about Colonel Koenig. The lady that he was very close to, I believe he married. He never married her. All right, well, her son was, her last name was Straw, am I correct? Very, very close. Her son, Ron Straw, WB2BZD. big zombie dimwit. And Fred helped me. Yeah, there he is in the picture. Fred helped me find him. He's in Texas, I guess. I'm going to reach out to him. And he was a character. He and I hung out together. We used to go double dating. Matter of fact, we were dating a pair of sisters. And I can remember looking into the rearview mirror what was going on in the back seat and saying, "Oh no, I got to drive." He was a character, truly a character. And as you can see by that picture, he had that big grin on his face from the time he woke up in the morning till the time he went to bed at night. That's the way he was. Of course, as everyone knows, Frank was special. But another individual that was at the club back in those days, Carl Van Riper and Frank Leonard, K2YCB. Within a week or two, we had Stan Sanders. And Stan was a fixture in the club for all of those early years. I've gone flying with Stan. Stan is an accomplished pilot. I have remained very close to his son, Glenn Sanders, and I still have dinner with him every other Friday night.
Glenn is a ham.
Glenn is a ham. WB2HUS, I believe.
And if I can interrupt you in terms of bringing Stan Sanders up, and Stan's call is what, KCGK. Stan had planned to be here tonight. Okay, actually, I spoke to Stan twice in person at the house in preparing for this, but his wife is ill, and they need a caregiver, so he wasn't free to be able to make it tonight. But he sends his regards, okay, as part of that. So, any other stories here of characters? So, yeah, Steve, okay. Yeah, and then maybe flip it over to Fred, or Barry.
One more thing here.
Yeah, sorry, Roy, just 30 seconds if you can.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, we are all characters. I can tell you that because in my job, I see or talk to 20 or more a day. We're all characters in some way. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. Does anybody remember a ham radio store on Highway 46? I don't remember the name of it, but I'd been there a few times.
Is that Lafayette Electronics?
I'm sorry?
Lafayette Electronics?
No, not Lafayette. No. That was on the 17.
Yeah, that's right.
Root Electronics.
On the 46.
Root Electronics.
But I do remember Stan. That's another fellow I remember. He was the resident extra class licensee, and that's when getting an extra was extraordinarily tough. In addition to everything else, there was an experience requirement, if I'm not mistaken. But that's about it, people. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Roy. So let me turn it over to Steve, WA2BYX, Portable 2.
One of the powerhouse characters we had in the 1970s was a fellow by the name of Jim Solms, WA2MEL. Worked his way up to technician class. And like the Kramer character on Seinfeld, no one ever quite knew what he did to earn a living. But he worked his way to be secretary of the club, vice president of the club, and president of the club. And as a club officer, he had keys. So he used to come down during the days after the janitors swept the floors, and he organized all of our parts and components, cleaned up the attic, and all the donations coming in, he'd rustle through and sort them aside. He would then use the parts to build things. So he built an analog frequency measuring device so the club could participate in the ARRL frequency measuring test. He decided to put one of our relay racks to use in some donated commercial equipment. He built a 2-meter transmitter and a homemade VFO that he temperature compensated using his frequency measuring device out of a letter tray from a stationery store. That was our Oscar uplink device, so we could actually operate the Oscar 6, Oscar 7 satellites. And he invented, using a globe, an Oscar locator. It was an analog with a piece of correcto tape on it, tacked out for the minutes. He put the compass bearings off the North Pole. He drilled a hole through Fair Lawn, put a paper clip so we could get timing and bearings. And you'd sit there with a set of you plug an electric clock in at a certain time, and then minute by minute, one person would track with the paper clip, and another one would turn the antenna rotors while someone else operated the station. We had the homemade 2-liter rig to go up, and we had a SB301 heat kit receiver for the downlink. We set an antenna at a 30-degree angle on the roof and had a mostly TA33 for our receiving end. He was always building and inventing, and he built a grid dip meter using a mercury battery, a 9-volt mercury battery, so that the output voltage would be stable, so it wouldn't have to have a sensitivity control on it. I mean, that was the kind of guy Jim was. He was building things in the club. And
Great, sir. I want to watch that. Let's go over to Fred and Barry, you know, the band. Anything first before I go?
Yeah, nobody mentioned Carl too much. He was the first, leader of the club, the director. And the first night I joined, I see this guy, and he's a big guy, and he's smoking these shop pipe cigarettes. It was getting close to field day, so he says, everybody outside. And it was dark. What the hell is this? What kind of club is this? So he marches us downstairs. We go outside and get this big freaking generator on the end of a truck. We're going to tell you guys you got to learn how to operate this generator for field day. So he's got this thing that's dark out, and he points to the fuel filter and he says, Sykes, what is this? I don't know. The carburetor. It's not going on. It's going.
Try that today, right?
That's very. That was Carl.
Fred and then Van.
Okay, Fred W2AAZ. By the way, hello, Hal. Good luck in the contest. Okay, Carl, a lot of people have memories about Carl Van Riper. He was Carl Van Riper. He was the fearless leader. Mm-hmm. We actually had another name for him behind his back, which I won't repeat that now with the mixed company that we have here. But yeah, he and Frank Leonard were two different personalities. Carl was the theory guy.
These guys are worse than any AM operator I ever met.
And when we get to Frank, I'm going to talk about Frank too. But they were two different people.
Well, I told the guy, I talked to the coordinator thing, and I told him these.
Frank was not so much so, but that's another story. We'll get to that. My first experience with Carl kind of turned me off.
Anyway, I told him, I said, run it like a net, get everybody listed in,
Right,
lost control.
That was his brand, and so we used to.
Anyway, I just wanted to make sure you got in there.
By the way, footnote is called W.
Right, so.
Howard Station died in 1948.
Yeah, so you got to get out there and get busy. Yeah, I understand.
Thank you very much. Okay, but that's not there. Stanley Sanders, I remember this night. First announced his appearance. We came up to the club.
Yeah,
by the way,
we're getting furniture for the patio, and I got plenty of 46. And
second floor.
1960.
I came in 63. In 64, I went there on a Friday night.
It was that.
Mailbox on the outside of the door, the entrance.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
Mailbox. Inside the mailbox was a QSL card from W2.
The guy from the tower's coming over tomorrow. He's gonna get things arranged. We'll catch you later, okay? Okay, bye.
Just real quick, the Ackerman Estate is where the Senior Citizen Center is now.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
By the way.
Quick point of information. So you're saying 63, 64?
I turned in 63. Stanley came in 63.
Okay, when the club was founded in 56, where did it meet? Does anybody know? Or did it
I think that was
in the Memorial Park. In Memorial Park, right.
When I joined in 61, we were in the, what was upstairs, the old municipal.
It was empty.
That was the old municipal
building.
The jail cells were still there
down
in the basement.
Yeah. So Fred, another minute, and then I want to turn it over back because I'm watching the clock.
Okay. Let's see. I kind of lost my train of thought.
Sorry. Yeah.
Carl. Not much more to add to him, but he was very authoritarian. Got a lot of people rubbed the wrong way, and including Frank, by the way. They used to have some epic battles back and forth as well.
Carl, yeah, who was president in '64?
Oh, I don't
Carl
know.
was president in '63. I get into '64, but '64 to '65, I don't remember.
Florida then.
Yeah, 84. I forget his full now down there, but yeah, he used to work 20 sideband. I hear him on Working Guys down there. He moved to Florida. That's correct. But he and Frank with Lockhorn. Carl got a. I have a lot more to say about Frank later, and we'll pick it up on that.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Thanks. Over to Van. Van, you got 2 minutes.
It's just about 8 o'clock. I want to break around 8:30, 8:35. We do have to be out of here tonight at 9 because there's nothing else in the building. So, okay, so Van, over to you.
Okay, a couple of things. Since we're talking about Carl, K2YCB's daughter, Pat, was in my, I dated her for about 3 years, I guess.
We'll edit the rest out here.
Right, exactly. But Carl lived 1 block away from me. I'm on 12th Street. He was on Burbank, and he had a 100-foot tower with a 6-meter, huge 6-meter array. I had a 50-foot tower on tri-band beam, and we used to get constant. I always gave out my phone number so people could call if they had a problem. I got all of his calls because he was on 50 megahertz when Channel 2 was also there. So I constantly got his calls, and I gently referred them back and kind of got rid of them. But Pat was supposed to be on. I'm still in touch with her, and she was supposed to be on tonight, but she had a work commitment. But she passed the regards too, because she knew an awful lot of people that her dad, mentored. W2KBH, I know Skip will relate to this. Does anybody remember Bill Stratton? Yeah. He was my mentor. He was my Elmer. Skip and I used to go over to his house on Saturday morning. I can still smell the cigar smoke in the basement. And he had an SDR 522 and a Gonset communicator. And he would not let me. Skip had a license already by then. Skip could operate 2 meters. I could only watch. Until you get your license, you're not even going to talk on the radio. So talk about an incentive. It was like bang. Later, probably in the 60s, Gene, KJI, and Renee and a whole bunch of people, we all belonged to the East Coast VHF Society that met at Renee Shaw's house over in Saddlebrook. Thank you. And we ended up being the first group to bounce a signal off the moon. There was no such thing as moon bounce back then. In relation to that, the Garden State Plaza gave us space for the Ham Radio Expo. They gave us a huge amount of space in the basement, and we had kiosks all over, and we had Gene Shepard as the guest speaker, K2ORS, who a lot of you remember from WOR Radio, and we flew in VK3ATN, who was the other end of the 2 meter thing, and the Garden State Plaza picture, shopping center to pay for anything nowadays. And the last remembrance, I'm sure you all know, Beth Salco on 21st Avenue, Dave Wasserman. Everybody, I used to ride my bike down there with Skip and buy a little box full of parts and put them all in a cigar box until we had everything to build something. You're up.
Thank you. Okay. You want to borrow 15 seconds? That's all I'll give you. 15.
Quick story.
Yeah.
Then we'll,
I got to get time.
that should tickle everyone. There was a fellow in the club. I don't remember his first name, but his last name was Shapiro. Dave Shapiro. Okay, we remember Dave Shapiro. I remember when Dave Shapiro, before he got his license, I'm pretty sure, came into the club with a Keith Kit. And this is affectionately remembered by me and perhaps other people as the infamous Shapiro tour. He read the instructions for building the tour. It was a kit, but he missed one key instruction early on in the build, and that was the one where you were told that you needed to strip off the 1/4 inch of insulation at the end of each wire before you wrapped it around the terminal and soldered it. He brought it into the club. This thing doesn't work. And I remember opening it up and looking inside and shaking my head and walking away. But that's
Thank you. I've just got one thing to add.
You can find that, Bob.
You mean there were people like that even then?
My head from the 80s and 90s is Ben Leah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, Ben Leah. Okay, you know, I can't remember his fall, but I remember Ben as clear as day. You know, so just as EJY. Thank you very much. So yeah, the moderator should never interject. There's just somebody that just sort of flipped in the way. Yes,
walking
15 seconds on Ben. Okay, then I want to move on.
Ben Leah was 6'6" and blind. He died at 94 years of age. He was on Route 23 in the nursing home. I brought him a radio, and then he bought a Kenwood 450, I believe, brand new, and he would operate from it. Ben was a radio telegrapher.
An arrow guy, right?
And he copied 50 words a minute. I saw Ben a week before he died, and I used to go out there and take him for breakfast. I used to drive out there and take him. My wife and I would go out, and Ben was just lived by himself. Don't know manage how he managed it, but he got around. Uncle Dave used to be in Passaic. Then he moved out of Passaic to Garrett Mountain, and his place, Vet Salco, had equipment that you would drool over. The place burned to the ground. No sooner did it burn to the ground, he moved to Market Street in Patterson. And then he moved out of there and moved to Hamilton Avenue, where the basement was always wet and soaking wet.
You needed a gun.
And you needed a gun because the dogs were there and they would bite your rear end off. Dave Wasserman's wife used to work down the block.
No, Michael.
And he used to drive by my house and sit out there and blow the horn. Uncle Dave. He wasn't a ham, but it was.
Okay, let me just switch gears here. I want to do about 10 minutes, if I can, on field days gone by. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to pick up Hal and Skip. Okay. So I want to open, we went around Hal and Skip, just any recollections in terms of field days in the past. Okay, and I'm also interested in terms of, I've heard a lot of places where we met. Okay, you know, sort of like, where did we meet? What gear did we bring up there? That type of thing. So, Hal, Skip, Roy, any recollections in terms of field days gone by?
I remember one, well, the earliest one that I can remember, and I mentioned Blasberg's Grove. While I'm sitting here in front of a computer, I looked it up. That was in Hawthorne, and it's long since been covered over by subdivisions. But that was a great spot. Up there you could literally look down on Fair Lawn and Patterson and work a lot of people on VHF. I was a kid at that point. I remember being based on River Road and heading out to a couple, but I don't remember where we went. I got tied in with Dave Popkin, WB2CCF, who lived in Englewood. The Englewood Amateur Radio Association went on a lot of field days in a Boy Scout camp up in Alpine. I hit a few of those, and that's about it. You know, I was only in the club 6 or 7 years before we left Fair Lawn, and I went to Demarest. I do remember Skip driving all the way up to Demarest once because I had a transformer he needed to put into a flying spot scanner, and I got to see that working later. So I have that recollection, but not too many field day recollections.
Thank you. Any others on the phone?
This is Mark.
Go ahead.
I don't recollect anything from the radio club, but Van and I went to my uncle's farm up in Oak Ridge one year for a field day, and a story about Carbon Riper. In fact, I just found a note that Van had written to me when I was up at the site, and he was bringing up the generators from Carbon Riper. He loaned us 2 generators from the maintenance department when we worked in Fair Lawn. So he had extensive notes about what to do and not to do with the generator. But we were up at my uncle's farm, and to set up the antennas, I climbed a tree to put a dipole up. And I later found out that tree was covered with poison ivy. So which was the last month of high school in June, and I had to go through the last month with all this poison ivy on both my arms, all the way up and down my arms. It was a little embarrassing. And the other time was, and Van can probably tell you more about, in his backyard one year, we both got together, put a tent up, and just off AC power, but we set up a little field day site and had a lot of fun. And we took a picture of us sitting there, and a couple of years ago when I came up to work field day with you guys, we duplicated that picture, and Van may have it with him or can show you at some point. We duplicated our little pose where we were sitting next to each other working field day.
Now, Skip, we're looking at a picture of you right now. So that picture, okay?
Okay.
So it's true.
Yeah, that's cool. And I have some pictures of field day up in Oak Ridge, but I forget, we had two other guys with us. I'm not even sure who it was. I don't know if Andy, you can remember.
Thanks much. Anything else from anybody on the phone?
Okay, when it's
Roy again.
Oh.
That was an interesting story about Shapiro. I didn't think
That's
people
Mark.
made
Okay, I know who it is. Mark, I hear you.
I'm sorry?
Okay. Yeah, we've got another check-in. Okay, Mark. Okay, K1SRE, you're behind us there?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm here. I checked in before. It just is tough to get
Okay,
in
Mark,
there.
I just didn't hear you with all the voices. Okay, so Skip, is that Skip or Hal I was talking just now? Skip, right? Skip, why don't you finish and then we'll turn it over to Mark, okay?
Yeah, that's all I had for that. And Hal, yeah, I remember you were over in my basement one time. I was showing you my flying spot scanner, which I still have, sitting there. But,
really?
Yeah, it's still there. And in fact, all my stuff, my 2828 and all the stuff I built, sitting on shelves down there. I was amazed one day looking through stuff of how much stuff I built during my years in high school. I was pretty prolific in building for some reason.
Okay. Thank you. Hey, Mark, okay, K1SRE. Mark, you're up in Maine. We spoke a little earlier today. I'm sorry I didn't hear you underneath. But let me turn it over to you for any comments that you...
Yeah, okay, very good. I live up in Maine now, on the mid-coast of Maine. And all those may have known me by WD2OFG or N2AIH. I don't think you guys knew me when I was NJ2MR, but I'm now K1SRE, which is a...
Some head shaking here, Mark, so yes.
And I say hello to Bob. Bob, I know Bob well. And some of the other guys were, I was in the early 70s in the club. I spent a small stint as the president. And Jim, K2GMT is in there also. I had spoken to him earlier, and he told me he checked in. So you might want to get comments from him. The club was pretty active back then, and we used to have a lot of good times. And I remember one field day, I think we probably had the first digital logging system that the club ever had, and that was Bob Killey, WA2WIW, had programmed a logging program and a dupe for the program using an F8. And I think we used an ASR-33, I think, for printing the log out. But anyway, Bob could probably straighten me out on that. But I remember that, and we were up on Skyline Drive. We had a lot of fun, and we used to. And I think we were eating canned stew or something. But we had a lot of fun up there. So anyway, I don't want to hold it too long, and I just say hello to everybody. And it's nice to hear all those great memories. Go ahead.